Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Arctic Pauper Show. I am your host Arctic Ghost, and this week I'm bringing you Blue Black Flicker. It is currently the deck that I'm using for the first 4 weeks of the Community Pauper Challenge. If you'd like to know what that is, you can visit the Twitch page at twitch.tv/Community Pauper Challenge. Should be a lot of fun if you check it out. Thanks for checking it out. Anyway, so what this deck is, it's basically whoever wanted to keep playing Drake is playing with a Drakeless Drake deck. I have not been a very big fan of it. I played the deck because I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be cool to play. I thought it'd be cool for people to watch. But I feel as though the deck isn't very good. I've oftentimes found myself it being too slow. I've oftentimes found myself drawing a lot of cards in the wrong order. I think the deck can get very confused as to what it's trying to do, and I think you have a lot of cards that just aren't good in the metagame right now, and then you have a lot of cards that are just not good on their own. In the first 3 weeks, I have faced off against Kuldotha Boros. I got a little unlucky, but I think, Kuldotha Boros can beat this deck. A few people assure me that this deck beats Kuldotha Boros, but I don't know, I haven't had much luck against it, but maybe it is just variance. I've also played against Delver. I lost to it in 3 games in the Community Pauper Challenge. I got very unlucky in Game 3 because variance is just that. We got to a point where I had 9 lands in total, and then I drew 5 more while my opponent drew 3 spells out of 5 cards, so what are you going to do? And then I also faced against Red Deck Wins. And Red Deck Wins, I went to 3 games again, and my opponent drew the nuts. And I got a little lucky, but I was just too slow. That's another thing. I think this deck also, its mana is just kind of too slow. But I don't know. Let's break the deck down piece by piece and see what it plays. So first up, for the creatures, you have 4 Seagate Oracle. I think Seagate Oracle is one of the best creatures you could be playing in Pauper right now. The fact that it is a 3-mana 1/3 means it comes down fast. It's a good early blocker. It draws you a card as well. And it's easily killed, that's true, but it does block a lot of what a lot of decks are doing. It blocks a lot of creatures in Stompy if they don't have a pump spell. It blocks a lot of creatures in Elves. Blocks a lot of creatures in Red Deck Wins. Goblins. White Weenie. It just blocks everything. It's just a great card. And then you have Chittering Rats. Chittering Rats is part of the combo of this deck. It's an annoying little bugger. That's true. It's great just for the fact that it's 3-mana 2/2, but also the fact that it sets your opponent back a turn. It can kind of time walk your opponent, which is really great for this deck, because this deck needs all the help it can get when it's trying to move forward. So Chittering Rats definitely does help with that. Then you have Archaeomancer, which is the other combo piece of the deck. It's great because you can just return either your counterspell or your removal spells, but it's also good with Ghostly Flicker. And then you have Mole Drifter because it's Mole Drifter. I don't think I should have to explain why this card is here. So that's the creatures. You're pretty much playing 13 of the most typical creature base you could think of that a deck like this would play. You have the Chittering Rats as the combo piece, plus, it helps you buy time. You have Seagate Oracle because it's a good early blocker to help buy you time. And then, of course, you have the good combo here and the best blue creature in Pauper, in my opinion. Moving on to the spells, at the 1-drop, you have 4 Preordain. I think this card's better than Ponder because you push cards to the bottom of the deck instead of shuffling your entire deck to get a redraw. The way that this deck wins is really drawing a lot of specific cards in key situations and being able to push dead cards to the bottom, like Chainer's Edict in certain matchups, Counterspell when you know you're not going to be able to use it early, Echoing Decay in a matchup like Tron or things like that. You don't have to draw them again. It's pretty good. If you notice, there are no shuffle effects really in this deck. So once you push dead cards to the bottom, you're not going to have to draw them again, which is a good thing. Then for the other 1-drops, you have a Deadweight as just a kind of way to stick it to the man. And a Disfigure, just as a 1-mana removal spell. And then you have an Unearth to get back your Chittering Rats or your Seagate Oracle. I guess it also cycles. Then, for the 2-drops, you have Counterspell because it's Counterspell. It's not easy to cast in this deck because you rely so much on Dimir Aqueduct a lot of the time, playing it early. So you'll find yourself not really being able to either having to cast Counterspell or not being able to cast it because you have to do other things. So that's what I mean by this deck is not really equipped to play Counterspell, but it does the job. It does. Then you have Chainer's Edict. Chainer's Edict, I think, is kind of on the downswing. It used to be you know, the big card for me in Pauper. It used to be the big swing. But the thing is, Bogles has taken a bit of a backswing. It's not that great against Stompy or Goblins or Red Deck wins or any of the aggro decks for that matter. It's good against this deck, but it's not good against Delver, because they'll just sack a random 1/1. It's not good against any of the control decks, of course. It's just not a great card in general right now, I think. And the fact that this deck relies on it so much is a big problem, in my opinion. I'm just not a big fan of it. You have a couple of Doom Blades. It's just a 2-mana removal spell. You have 1 Echoing Decay to get the tokens. You had 2 Archaeomancers, so you kind of have 3 Echoing Decays in the deck, but you do have to draw this one first. I kind of want a second one. I apologize for the Steam. It just so happens that I'm recording, and the Steam comes on. Thank you. Screw you, life. Then you have Agony Warp. I like Agony Warp a lot. It's just a good way to fog a creature and to kill a creature. I just like it. And then moving on to the 3, you have Reaping the Graves, which is really good with Archaeomancer. It's kind of just infinite Reaping the Graves back the creature. A Murder, just to have it on curve to destroy a creature of any color. And then Soul Manipulation is good because not only does it remove soul something, it also gets back a dude. It might be a little slow, remove soul might be better, but I like this card right now. And then the mana base is pretty straightforward. You don't actually need that many lands, so you get to play 2 cycle lands just to thin your deck a bit. You play 1 of each just in case that's what you have up at the time. And then the rest of the mana base is kind of straightforward. Of course, you do have Ghostly Flicker. That is the combo of the deck. But if you notice, Ghostly Flicker, it's not great. It's not great because you're not really winning the game, you know, so to speak. Like, with Ghostly Flicker and Peregrine Drake, it was different because you had time to play Compulsive Research and things. You could discard this card. You only needed 1 of them. You don't play, you know, anytime you draw 1 of these, you have to kind of use it. And the problem is, oh my god, hold on. The problem with Ghostly Flicker in this deck is that you don't have a lot of cheap removal. You don't have Flame Slash plus Lightning Bolt, so you don't really have a lot of ways to use extra mana like you did with the Peregrine Drake deck, but it's still what it is. In the sideboard, you got some anti-control cards in Dispel, anti-red cards in Hydroblast, a couple of good anti-control cards in Stormbound Geist, good deep analysis to help you with grindier matchups, duress against the combo decks or the control decks, an extra Disfigure to help with removal, an extra Murder to help with removal, Nausea against those pesky little token decks or goblins or what have you, and 2 relics against the Mirror or Reanimator or whatever you might run into. So that is the deck. It's pretty much what it is. It's not quite stock. I'm playing a few different cards from what you might see in the stock list. Now, don't get me wrong. This deck is not a bad deck. I just don't think it's actually very well positioned. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but to go 5-0 in a league, you're always going to need a little bit of luck. There's always going to be decks that don't necessarily deserve the 5-0. I've seen some 5-color Zooless 5-0, and I don't believe that this deck should ever 5-0 without, you know, unless it's getting very lucky. I sort of feel the same way with this deck, but I know that this deck is actually quite good at the same time. But what do I know? I don't claim to be an expert. You guys know I'm not an expert. You guys know I'm not great at Magic. I make fun of myself all the time because I'm so bad at Magic. I'm probably the worst Pauper player you know. Okay? So don't take my word as gospel. We're going to play a couple test matches with this deck. We're going to see how it runs and how it functions, what it looks like, and I will see you in just a little bit. Thanks for watching.